The following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Kojiko.
To Oakville Matters. This is the program that looks at the things that matter to you and make our town what it is today. With us today, as we talk about arts and culture in Oakville, are Bernadette Ward, who's the Executive Director of the Oakville Arts Council, Mustafa, the Artistic Director of West End Studio Theater, and Rena Sava, who's an artist and Chair of Artworks Oakville. I first met Rena when she was hanging an art show in Town Hall, which doubles as her art gallery.
Right, that's correct. Big art gallery, yes.
And she always has good brownies at her.
That's right, we gotta bring brownies to the mayor. At our opening.
And obviously I have a weakness for those. The Oakville Arts Council, Bernadette, it's kind of an interesting group. It was disbanding itself when I became mayor 9 years ago, and I thought that was a crisis and a shame. And some really great volunteers came forward to restore it and put it back on its feet. And here we are 9 years later, and you're the inheritor of that. It's as strong and healthy as it's ever been in its life, as far as I can tell. For anybody who doesn't understand what the Arts Council does and what it's become, maybe this is the time to tell them.
The Oakville Arts Council is, and the community at large, we offer a lot of services that help with community engagement, so we want the community to know where to find out about arts and culture, the activities that are produced, and where to find individual artists. If they wanted to buy a painting, they could come to our website. We also work with our arts groups and our artists on professional development, so we offer workshops and seminars. We guide to assist cultural groups with their efforts to build and grow artistic endeavors in the community of Oakville.
Right. The arts and culture grants are very old in this town, and they go back quite a ways. Do you still find there's a need for those?
The need is ongoing. It hasn't diminished even slightly. This past year we had 28 groups that drew on a pot of about $104,000. Those 28 groups contributed over 100,000 volunteer hours, which, you know, comes definitely a big need there. And I think at Queen Elizabeth Park Community and Cultural Center, they have a great lineup of offerings for people emerging, you know, into the arts. But a lot of our arts groups also offer programming and services for children. Yo, of course, teaches at West End Studio Theater, and many of our groups do. But that's not it's not the only need. The arts are something that people embrace throughout their life, so as they go along. There seems to be a little gap when people are busy raising those little ones, but once that's passed, they tend to move on, and then there's a renewed interest in participating in the arts again.
So the Arts Council, I'm pretty sure your office is in Queen Elizabeth Park.
It is.
And at first, one of the ideas was that the Oakville Arts Council would help program the center. How is that working out?
Well, we don't program the center per se. I mean, there's a town facility and town staff do the programming. We do participate, though, on committees that are involved in the programming. So the Interior Design Committee, we participate on that, and any other committees. We act as a conduit, of course, between the town and our artists, so if there's opportunities at QEP, we make sure our artists get those. But the programming itself is going along, I understand, quite well. And again, it's targeted to young children, and the classes tend to be pretty full.
So it evolved in a successful direction, it sounds like.
I mean, I think the programming part has absolutely evolved, and QEP, of course, is a great facility.
Now, I've known you and of you for all the time that I've lived in Oakville. And I'm wondering if from your perspective, you'd comment on how the arts and cultures scene has changed over the last 20, 30 years. Is your sense that Oakville's arts and culture scene is rising, falling, staying the same?
It varies. It really does. There isn't a trend going up. I mean, sometimes there is a lot of interest in the art, especially at our studio. There's a lot of kids registered, and then all of a sudden it dips, and then it pops up again. So there really isn't an upswing. It varies. It goes up and down. It depends on what's happening also at the Oakville Center. The subscription series that I am part of, the age of the subscribers is sort of middle age and up, and it's very difficult to bring in the younger people to start feeding into the Oakville Center, and we have to, as a group, I mean, I'm completely conscious about that, bringing in new actors. That actors have not been on the Oakville Center stage for a long time, and you introduce new actors, and that brings in new people to the Oakville Center, and also brings new people into Oakville. So it varies.
So is your group open to people who I would think of as being interested in, what did it used to be called, Little Theater?
Little Theater, yep, absolutely. We have students, we have classes from age 5 all the way up to adult classes. We do 3 shows a year at the Oakville Center for the Performing Arts. West End Studio Theater is a community theater group. It's open, the auditions are open to everybody in the community, and sometimes we do bring in professional actors to work with, depending on the play. If we're having a difficult time casting a certain part, and we're allowed to work with equity to bring a professional actor to fill that part, but everybody works together.
And equity is some kind of actors union?
Equity is the actors union. Yes.
And do you have volunteer roles for people who want to be behind the scenes, or is it only in front of the floodlights?
We are desperate for people for backstage. Everybody wants to be a star. We're talking about this. Everybody wants to be a star. But we do need a lot of people to do props, to do stage managing, lighting, all kinds of help backstage.
Well, those are the sides of the house that I'd be more comfortable with.
Good. So you're volunteering?
I might even volunteer to do something backstage. I've always imagined that. I mean, I've heard of a thing called stage fright, and I think I would have it.
A lot of people do. I mean, the adult classes, it's amazing the cross-section of people that come to the adult classes. We have lawyers, doctors, everybody. And it's amazing that when they first walk into the classroom, they say, this is my fear. I'm overcoming my fear. This is on my bucket list. I have to do this. Because I didn't realize that public speaking is like #1 fear in the world. That completely surprised me.
Yes, I had to get over that hurdle to be mayor. Rena, with the artists that you hang,
yes.
Do they have
Just their work.
Do they have hang fright? Do they have exhibition fright?
Yes, we hang emerging artists, and I think artists do because they're putting themselves out when they hang their painting on the wall, and it's their own personal feelings that they have in the painting. So they do have a little bit of tension when that happens, but we find they're a little timid when they first show it, but every once in a while we get a sale and then they're happy. So it's pretty good.
So how many different places do you
We
show?
have 7 sites in town. We do Town Hall,
yes,
is our major site. We have Royal LePage offices both in Mississauga and in Oakville. We do Donato's offices on Kerr Street. Julia's Restaurant, we have a room where we hang one-man shows. O'Connor Cloud, I said. Halton Region. outside of the chambers. We have the corridors there, and there's another one that I can't think of. So I'm sorry.
So it sounds to me like you're run off your feet.
We have volunteer. We need volunteers desperately, but we do have some really good core volunteers, and each one is assigned a site, and they're the site chair. And they're the when members join Artworks, we send out a newsletter and we tell them when we have our calls for entry. So we say, Town Hall, come 10 o'clock this day, you bring your art. And then we hang their art in the different places. We do 42 shows a year. Our shows usually go from 8 weeks to 3 months in the different sites. QE Park is the last one that I forgot, sorry. So we change 42 shows a year. Usually there are between, I'd say, 10 to 30 artists in each show. And that's what we do. Our mission is to have original art in the town, so that we want the people in Oakville to know that there is a community of artists. We have 85 members of Artworks Oakville. It fluctuates between 80 and 100 in the years. We have people that come from as far away as Grimsby and as far away as Toronto, Hamilton, a little bit Georgetown, that are members. About 70% of our membership is local Oakville artists, but we go from artists come from the region, and it gives them an opportunity to hang their work. Whereas ordinarily, if they weren't in a gallery and they weren't good enough for a gallery, or they didn't have the experience, then they wouldn't be able to showcase their work.
And a gallery might, well, in the case of a commercial gallery, they would be looking for a commercial artist.
Right. They would be looking for a seasoned artist, a seasoned artist, and their fees are astronomical. We take just 20%, and that is what helps us exist. We have a cultural grant thanks to Bernadette in the town.
Is there overlap between you and the members? Any of your members also participate in the Oakville Art Society?
Absolutely, because the Oakville Art Society is a society that has classes, and they hang some shows. They're in QE Park along with us, but they don't do sites the way we do. Our mandate is just to showcase art. We don't do classes, we don't do workshops. We participate in workshops that Bernadette might have doing, she's had some great things that have helped our organization. But we just show art.
So it sounds to me like you might actually show more art to more people than the Oakville galleries do. And that's kind of
absolutely, because we have seven sites, and in QE Park we might be hanging 40 or 50 pieces. In Town Hall we're hanging 40, 50 pieces. In Halton we're hanging 10 or 15, but we might be hanging 20 in Julia's. So we're hanging a lot of art in the community for the people to see, and that's the main thing, is to people to see that there is original art in the city.
I think there's a lesson in there somewhere for others in what you've just described. After this brief pause for a message, we'll be right back, and we'll talk about how the town's cultural facilities fit in to the vibrant arts and culture scene in Oakville. Be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today as we explore arts and culture in Oakville. You know, Bernadette, the thing that Rena was just talking about in terms of helping get artists established leads to a whole question about how do we ensure that future generations have the artists that we need, because artists art's a very important part of being the most livable town in Canada. Why don't you start us off in terms of how we're helping budding artists?
Well, the Art Council itself has a number of programs and services, so we're often approached by budding artists, and they want to know all sorts of different bits of information that we have stored in our wonderful offices, and it's often just you have to make a distinction. So some artists want to go into business for themselves. Some artists are looking for skills. They want to take classes. They want to develop as artists. So our role really is to direct them, and we're going to connect them with people like Yo or people like Rena, so that those skills can actually be developed.
You matchmaker, you.
That's us. We're a matchmaker.
And Yo, you said that sometimes you have trouble finding people. So do you equally go back to Bernadette and say, find us some?
We do. We do sometimes go to the Oakville Art Council. Also, we get in touch with some of the drama teachers in the community, because there are kids that are involved with the arts in schools. And we also work, I like working with co-op students. I always make sure that I have co-op students working on productions. Every semester I have a co-op student. And in the summertime we have I think it's called is it the Chisholm program that specializes in it's a 1 month co-op program, and the student gets a credit. It's a specialty path program. I think that's, I'm not sure of it. So we try to help with that as much as possible.
Now Sheridan has this very vibrant theater program, musical theater and everything else. How much interaction do they have with our community?
Quite a bit. We have quite a bit of interaction with Sheridan College. Most of our students, we help audition to get into Sheridan College. If they're doing the musical theater audition, I have teachers at the studio that are able to help them get into to Sheridan College. Also, in the spring, when the Sheridan College film students have to do their final project, they use a lot of our actors at the studio. They come in, and they even sometimes we let them borrow the studio free of cost, and they use it. So it's a nice relationship with Sheridan College.
Yeah, how did you guys find that? By the way, you know, did you build it yourself? You must have built it yourself.
No, the studio space.
Yeah.
No, we're renting it. We turned it. It was an industrial unit. Matter of fact, the guy that was storing his boat, and it was oil everywhere. So we transformed it. We have springboard floors and mirrors, and so it's a studio. It's with lights and sound. Yeah. So it's a little black box theater that we used in the summertime for our productions with our kids.
Now, we have a black box theater at Queen Elizabeth Park, and it's pretty large. Have you used that for anything?
We haven't. We haven't.
What, is there a barrier to keep you from using it?
There is.
What's the barrier?
Here we go.
It's the money. It really is. I mean, that's what it is. It's the cost. I can't justify, you know, having a space that I could put easily 60, 70 people into a box space that in my studio for free, and paying.
It's very low cost. I know. I'm involved in something that the Opera Guild is doing, and it's like less than $300 for half a day. So maybe it's more affordable than you think.
Well, I shall ask. I'll ask the Oakville Arts Council.
Well, let's ask the Oakville Arts Council. Are you aware of anything interesting or unusual having been done in there?
In the Black Box Theater, you know, it's a pretty versatile space. I have to say, from the Arts Council's perspective, we use it ourselves. We use it for our annual general meeting, and arts awards, arts recognition awards, and even on occasion for larger meetings. I know the town itself uses the Black Box Theater for public town hall meeting type things. Unusual, I mean, I'm not sure. You might have to give me a little more of a definition of unusual.
Well, I know when we built it, as a former television producer, I walked into the room and said, oh my goodness, we've got one of the best television studios you could ever dream of having. Because, you know, if you hang the black curtains in the right way, you've got yourself a fabulous television theater. I'd like to see more use of that, as a matter of fact. But let's talk about the downtown cultural hub. The cultural facilities downtown are more than 40 years old. They're past their best by date. You renew what you have. It doesn't mean you get bigger or better. We've now developed over the last 2.5 years quite an interesting pair of choices about what to do about building up a more exciting set of downtown cultural facilities, if this was all predicated on the following idea. It's a bit of a history, but it's a funny kind of history. The original cultural facilities downtown are on what we call Centennial Square, and that refers to the 1967 100th anniversary of Canada. And there's a bit of an amusing irony in that the Center for Performing Arts, which was our ultimate centennial project, was built in 1977, not 67, because it took us 10 years to argue about whether to do it and how to do it and everything. And so I saw the 150th anniversary of Canada coming up, and I noticed that we almost always have, from the senior levels of government, the province and the country, infrastructure money for centennial and sesquicentennial 150th anniversaries. And it's almost always at the last minute. So I said to council and to the public, how about we create a plan, a shovel-ready plan, for a new cultural facility set downtown, if and when the senior levels of government show up with infrastructure money for the sesquicentennial. And if we're ready, and we've already thought about it, then we could actually do it instead of spending the next 10 years arguing about it. So it was just a matter of getting ready in case. And we now have these plans. They're both easy to see on the town's website at oakville.ca. You just search for Downtown Cultural Hub, and you'll see links that'll show you the pictures. And basically it boils down to, let's build bigger and better all in one spot on Centennial Square, or let's build bigger and better there, and let's build some of it on the old post office site at the end of George Street, down George Street from Town Square, so that we spread some of the activity out in the downtown and maybe make the downtown businesses just a little bit more successful and spread the traffic around just a little bit more. Right now, everything being at one end, it kind of favors one end of the 6-block business district. And if we put a bit in the middle, maybe that would be a good effect on the success of the downtown. So the question put to the population now is, pick one of those if we get the money. And some people have got hung up on, well, I don't want to pick unless I know how much each one's going to cost and how it's going to be paid for. And the answer is they cost roughly the same, and they're not going to happen unless the higher levels of government pay for it. So all you really need to do is pick which one you like. In the election, two parties were promising $30 billion to the cities for infrastructure starting in 4 or 5 years once they had slain this or that economic dragon, and another party was promising $60 billion starting right away. And all of them were going to spread it over 10 years. But the one promising 61, and Oakville's per capita share of 60 is about $350 million. And that means you could build either one of them and have a lot left over for all the other things that we need. So I'm asking you to go make your choice if you haven't made your choice already, and to seed the discussion with the people who are watching the show. Maybe each of you could talk about which one you prefer. And why don't we start with you, Rena?
Well, I've been a little bit involved with some of the cultural plans over the last few years. I think it's very important that we use all of downtown Oakville, that we have gallery space in either the new performance center or gallery space somewhere, that we keep Oakville galleries as an important part, because it is a very important part of the contemporary art scene. And I think that we should be able to, I think that it's a great idea to pull all of Oakville into it, to get into the post office space, maybe get into the space where OT was. There was talk about library space there and things like that, and have a bigger hub of Oakville, and have a walking area where there was a lot of talk about pedestrian walking space and trying to incorporate the lake front as part of it, because right now you have to go around to get to the gazebo, you go to the museum, you have to go up to here and over to there. So by uniting more of a downtown core and make it wider and broader and bring pedestrian activity into the downtown space, I think would be great. I mean, when I first moved into Oakville 40-odd years ago, there was the added touch, and it used to bring tons of people in. And now we've sort of lost that tourist trade.
So in the remaining few seconds, do you agree? Do you each agree?
It's really hard from my perspective because our members come from such diverse disciplines artistically, and they all have different needs and see different things. But I personally like to see, I think that the whole big plan of having it dispersed is going to float everyone's boat a little bit.
Well, we may have to have another show about that in order to get more views, but it's good to have this feedback, and our feedback is running predominantly, overwhelmingly towards the dispersed model. Thank you very much for being part of our talk today, and I hope that you will go to the town's website and register your opinion.